Dallas Famous podcast is supported by the Mullen & Mullen Music Project. The Music Project was created by Mullen & Mullen Injury Law Firm to champion the independent music scene in North Texas. I'm Andrew Sherman. I'm a Texas transplant who has always been in pursuit of art as a career. I've played in bands, pursued an acting career in Hollywood, but I found it behind the lens of a camera here in Dallas, Texas. I was born in New York, I've lived in Chicago, Los Angeles, Austin, but I love Dallas. There's a magical artistic scene in Dallas that mostly goes unnoticed to the outside world. This podcast is focused on what makes it so special and the people who make it thrive artistically. If you don't live here, and even if you do, you might not have heard of them. This is the Dallas Famous Podcast.
So who you gonna be? Who you gonna be when you're all grown up? Who you gonna be? Who you gonna be when you're all for us? Yeah.
This week on the Dallas Famous Podcast, it's Patrick Smith, an extraordinary bassist, studio musician, writer, and genre-bending artist whose versatile talents and incredible career have made him a true musical force. From playing with legendary acts and recording in top studios across the U.S. and Europe, to sharing unforgettable moments on stage, Patrick's journey is a testament to dedication, passion, and musical excellence. Join us as we delve into a story navigating the bustling Dallas music scene, building a dynamic career, and inspiring musicians and fans alike with his unparalleled talent and authentic stage presence. This may have been my favorite shot I've done yet, so I know you're going to love it. Here it is. Hey, we are back at the Deep Elm Community Center. I've got Patrick Smith, bass player extraordinaire.
Hello, hello.
How many bands are you in currently?
It's debatable. It possibly changes week to week.
Moment to moment.
There are people that I play with that they get busy doing other things in life, and I don't hear from them for months, six months, whatever. And then all of a sudden we've got a bunch of really cool shows, and I'm like, oh, cool. It's like if somebody asked me just a month ago who I played with, I wouldn't even have thought of them because I thought maybe they just went ahead and got another bass player. No, they've just been busy doing life stuff, and I still play in this band.
That's funny. I didn't even think about it. Yeah, like because the front guy of certain bands is like driving the train, and so if they're not driving, then you're not going anywhere.
Exactly. And if I'm if they're doing a bunch of solo stuff, or if they're off in another city working on a record with a producer with his guys and stuff like that, and it's like if things are off my radar and I'm busy with other things, it's like I can almost forget that I am still the guy on that project.
Right.
And then they call me and I'm like, oh, cool. Okay. I still play with you. I like that. That's wonderful.
That's funny. When this is like our third try at this interview, actually, I think it is. And I think I tried to make a list of your bands and I gave up.
Okay, so I actually made a list of things so that way, because it's like people will come up to me and I was just telling you before, they'll be like, hey, so yeah, who do you play with? And I'll just be overwhelmed with whatever I'm consumed in that moment. So it's like all I can think of is the most recent gigs I just had and the most recent gigs I have coming up. So I'll tell them like 3 or 4 bands that I play in, and then I'll just like totally blank. I'll be like, wait a second, let me pull Instagram, and I'll be like, oh, duh, I play with all these other bands too.
Right. Well, on that note, like before you even get to what you're going to look at, the most recent thing on your Instagram I saw was that you played the Ghostbusters theme with Ray Parker Jr. How did that come about?
So wild. Isn't that, I
couldn't believe what I saw. I was like, what? Actually, I could believe it, and I'll explain why later, but yeah.
If I just wish I could call like 8-year-old me and be like, dude, you're never going to believe what's going to happen. He'd be like, what? No. So I play with this guy named Reverend Sean Amos, and he's like a blues soul, blues rock, blues funk kind of thing. He's got a couple records out that are awesome. One that he just put out last year, and it's got a drummer from Tom Petty playing drums on that record. Anyways, Rev hit me up about this private party like 2-3 months ago. Yeah, great. Put it on my calendar. And then I realized about a month and a half ago, that I had made a mistake and I had a double booking that night. So I reached out to him to get more info about this private party. And he told me I actually can't even do it now. And I was like, well, if the other people still want me on this private party, I'm down to do it. And so he reached out to them and they were like, yeah, we'll still have him come play bass. So then maybe 10 days before, I get an email with the lay of the land, like introducing the people I'm playing with. And so these people had their anniversary and they'd won a Gibson guitar in auction. And Ray Parker Jr. volunteered to add himself to that auction, where now to like get people going on this guitar, the thing that they won was not just a Gibson guitar, but that Ray Parker Jr. would come to your house and play it for you. He would deliver it to you. And so these people took it, and like, I guess they already know Ray and they know these other musicians that I played with, and they decided, let's have our 40th anniversary party with, you know, like 75 of our friends, and we'll have it catered. We'll have a band. The band will do their 30-minute set, and then Ray will play 15 or 20 minutes by himself, and then the band will get back up and play 2 of Ray's songs with them, one of them being the Ghostbusters theme song. And the fun thing about it, too, is the guys that I was playing, the other people, right? There was a sax player singer named Mindy Aber, and she's one of the people in that video. So we did like 30 minutes of her music first, and she's like I think I saw she's like a Grammy-winning singer and saxophone player. I was chatting with one of the other guys, and she's done a lot of really cool stuff. She was Aerosmith's touring saxophone player at one point, somebody had mentioned. And then the guitar player, Mark, he was in Tower of Power from 2007 to 2010 and all these other big things that he's done.
Wow.
And then the drummer is Mindy's drummer, and he lives in Nashville, and he's played with other people as well. And then we had that other guest saxophone player that sat in that, like, you know, oh, hey, surprise, I'm here. You know, he's like from LA or somewhere. And I forget what he's done, but same kind of deal where like their resumes of the music they've played on or the people they've played with is just like, like crazy wild, you know?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's like, you know, Ray showed up and we were sound checking, and I'd just gotten this green Thunderbird on Facebook Marketplace at a steal, and we're playing, and I'm like getting the feel for the bass for the first time because I literally got it the day before. And Ray walks up and he looks at me and goes, "That's a really nice bass. You don't see him like that very often." And he's like, "You guys sound great." I'm like, "Oh, this is cool."
That's very cool.
And so then we were playing the song, like he got up and we sound checked with him and like rehearsed. And when I started playing the Ghostbusters lick on bass, you know, I'm going dun dun and I'm adding this whole like groove, you know, like where I'm like pulsing the notes a little bit and giving it like a cool groovy pocket. And he looks at me and he goes, "Hey man." I go, "What's up?" He's like, "So check it out. I need you to play that bass part as corny as possible." I'm like, "Oh, really?" He's like, "Yeah, like make it like stiff. Like I want it to sound like a drum machine's doing it." I was like, "Oh, okay." He's like, "Yeah, the song it's marching." You know what I mean? Like that's what my thought was this is like a marching thing, and that's how he came up with it. And the bass is like a sequenced part. It's like a key bass part, I believe. And so he told me that, and I was like, "Okay, cool." And so I like grabbed a pick and palm muted and started going dun 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 dun, just like super stiff.
Right.
You know? And then I heard the videos. Oh, look, Jim Suler's calling me. Hi, Jim.
That's funny.
So I watched the videos that people in the crowd had taken. Somebody airdropped me some stuff before I left that night. And I was listening, and I was like listening in my car stereo to the cell phone video, and I was like, "Man, I sound like that sequenced key bass thing like on the video, like a different video that I didn't post where you can hear my bass really clear." I was like, "That's so rad." It was really fun. It was really fun.
Nice. That is very cool. I mean, honestly, like as you're telling that story, I feel like other musicians probably come up to you and they're like, "That dude played with," and like your resume is probably just as big, right?
It's funny, you know, it's really... It's an interesting full circle thing to be like where I'm at. Like, I'm like, for me personally, I'm like halfway to where I want to be, you know, but I'm somewhere that's farther than I've ever been in my career. And I'm really excited and happy with all of the opportunities. And, you know, I'm seeing my value and my worth more than ever these days now. And it is interesting, you know, because it's unexpected when someone younger comes up to me and tells me that they did something because they saw me do it years ago, and you know, like they wanted this kind of bass or you know, whatever decisions they made based off of something that they saw me do. And I was just like, wow, like I can look back at all those times where I said that to other Dallas musicians that were 10, 15 years ahead of me in their career at the time when I was starting off. And then of course, same goes for like, you know, your idols that you meet, you know, it's like all the things I could have said when I met Dave Grohl about like, "Oh man, I've ripped off so many of the things that you've done." Like I'm writing in the studio and I'm like, "Oh, let's take this one concept from that one song where Dave Grohl played that drum fill," you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, it's interesting when somebody else comes to me, and it's like, that's the goal too. It's like, I want to inspire. I'm happy to share all of the information, like of what I do and why I do it and how I got to where I am, and like trial and error, things I've learned, like super excited about all of that. It's definitely like a big goal to inspire others.
Cool. Well, and you are definitely doing that. Let's, I guess I'm assuming that everybody knows who you are, but they probably don't. You play bass in many bands. You're a studio guy. You write. You go to NAMM. You got endorsements. Let's start at the beginning. Where are you from?
Well, I was born in New Jersey.
Okay.
But we only lived there till I was 3, and then we moved to North Carolina.
Okay.
And actually, I believe that my mom got pregnant with me when they were living in North Carolina, and then they moved to New Jersey and had me, and then we're like, oh, let's go back to North Carolina.
Interesting.
So it's like every time I tell somebody just like I'm from New Jersey, they're like, whoa, you don't sound like it. I'm like, oh yeah, I didn't really live there. I'm basically from North Carolina, you could say. But it's like half and half. I've been here longer. I moved to Texas in 2000 when I was 12 years old.
Oh, okay. So you half grew up here essentially.
Yeah, it's like half of my youth there, half of my youth here.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's
was that like a crazy transition to move here?
It's really funny actually. So my dad always loved Texas, and he's a writer, and he's been writing, most of his whole life, and we would come and we would take road trips to go see my sisters in Colorado or California when I was little from North Carolina. We would drive across the U.S. and we would always go to San Angelo and stay like on somebody's farm that my parents knew. And so that was my image of Texas, was dirt roads and the skeletons of cows, and people are riding horses, and like every house is 7, 10, 15, 20 miles apart, you know what I mean? Just like desert. That's what I thought. Right. So when I was 12 and they're like, we're moving to Texas, I'm like throwing a fit. I'm like, I'm going to have to ride a horse to school and my friends are going to dip and like, this sucks, man.
Oh,
and so then,
wow.
a month before we moved out here, my dad had already been out here for a couple of months, just like starting his new job and getting settled at the house, like getting everything ready. So we flew out to see what it was like here a month before. And we got here and I looked around and was like, whoa, like we live in the country in North Carolina. This is the big city.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So it was like mind boggling,
Yeah. Which part, where did you move to in Texas? Was it Dallas? Bedford. Okay.
Yeah, we moved to Bedford. And when we came to visit, we stayed right off of like 114 and what is that? It's like Freeport Park or whatever, right there on the edge of Grapevine. Like if you just outside of Grapevine, there's that whole strip of hotels on 114, Yeah.
That
was where we stayed when we came to visit. And so, yeah, it's like we got here and it's like big city, bustling. You know what I mean? Like literally where I grew up in North Carolina is like the country in comparison. So
Right,
it was really funny when we got here and I was like, okay, this is not at all what I thought it was going to be. There's different parts of Texas, it turns out.
Yes, indeed. So were you already kind of like gravitating towards music before you got here, or did that happen after?
Oh, so funny. When I was 10, my brother had a guitar that he got for Christmas or something. And then we took one of those road trips that I mentioned, where we went all the way over to California and back. And while we were gone, somebody knew that we were going to be gone and broke into our house and stole a bunch of stuff. And the guitar was one of the things that was stolen. And like his friends had just taught me how to play Brains 2 by Green Day. And I thought it was like, what a cool thing, But then it was gone, So after that, we didn't have a guitar. We never got another one. And it wasn't until like I was 17. Well, first off, when I was younger, I was obsessed with music and I just never knew, like I would sit by the radio with cassette tapes and make mixes recording off of the radio, and I'd call in and make requests and annoy the DJs calling 10 times like, will you please play this song? Like, we're gonna play it, kid. I'm like, okay. And so I'd like, it's like I was obsessed. Like my life revolved around music and I didn't realize it. And then when I was 17, a friend, she invited me to come play drums with her. She plays in a band called The Roommates, Jesse Johnson. So she invited me to come play drums and she would play guitar and sing. And I just like learned like some Green Day and Nirvana, different things like that to jam with her. And at the same time, a different friend taught me how to play the Sweater Song on guitar. So every time I'd finish jamming drums with Jesse, I'd pick up a guitar and try to play the Sweater Song, and I'd spend 1 to 10 minutes on it and just get mad, couldn't do it, put the guitar down. It's like 6 months of that, and one day I picked the guitar up and just played it, and I was like, whoa, this is the coolest feeling. And then like a week later, this kid offered to sell me this BC Rich Warlock for like $100, and I was like, I'm buying it. And then I was the guy that if you saw me out in public, I probably was just sitting and playing a guitar. Like I had no reason to be in public because all I wanted to do was play. But people would invite me over, so I'd be like, okay, I'll come hang out. And if they didn't have a guitar, I'd have mine. And it's actually at one point I remember maybe I was like 20, and you know, it's like these people I'm around all the time. And one day I stopped playing guitar for a minute. I put the guitar down and I walk in and I start talking to him. And this is somebody that's seen me almost every day for like 2 years. And he looks at me and he goes, dude. And I go, what? He goes, I forgot what your voice sounded like your speaking voice. And I was like, what? And he's like, every time I come over here, you're just like sitting playing guitar and you sound great. And so I never stop and like try to have a conversation with you. I just listen to you play. And this is the first time I can remember you talking to me.
Wow. That's wild, because I mean, I remember like, you know, growing up and seeing people walk around with a guitar and like, oh, what he's just trying to impress people. But like, you were just, that's what you,
I was just obsessed.
Yeah.
All I wanted to do was play. If I wasn't working, or like, you know, I went to TCC for a couple semesters. Originally, I wanted to do computers. When I was a kid, I built my first computer when I was 12. And when I was like 9 or 10, I started learning some programming languages, and I was like, there was a program called MIRC where people would go online and swap bootleg PlayStation games and stuff, and I would use script to adjust the chat program to look the way I wanted it to look and do the things I wanted to do and create all these commands, you know. And so I was like super into computers and like learned how to program video games and, you know, all kinds of stuff. And then when I was 17, I thought, you know what? I think I'm too energetic to risk being at a desk. And so I started just looking for something. And at the same time, I just started playing music. So I took a couple semesters at TCC, a bunch of random classes. And then it hit me. I was like, this is all I want to do. I want to play music. So I just quit school. And yeah, like literally, if I wasn't working, I was just guitar in hand, just going,
cool.
You know?
Okay. So you're doing all that on your own. At what point did you find other people to like play kind of seriously with?
So right away I had friends that played that were, you know, 5 to 10 years ahead of me playing, and I just would try to keep up, end up adjusting my techniques and habits based off of what I saw that they were doing. Like I was just learning visually, watching and listening. And
you're on the guitar though at this point, right?
I was on the guitar. Yeah. And I got a little interface, like a little line 6 tone port or whatever. So this would have been like almost 20 years ago, 19 years ago. And it was a little 1-channel interface, and I got like Reason or something, and I programmed drums, right? And so I would program drums, and that acted like a click track, which I didn't know anything about, you know, but it's perfectly in time. So then I'd sit there and record a riff I'd write, and I'd be like, yeah, this is killing, this is it. And I'd play back and listen as I just get further and further out of time with the drums, you know, because I had no experience playing in time.
Yeah.
So I sat there and just like, you know, obsessively would go over and over and over and over and over until it was close, you know, or still just garbage by the end of the night, until finally it was in time. And it turned out, you know, I've realized a few years later, I was practicing to a click, you know? And so, yeah, it was just like, at that point, it got easier for me to just fit right in playing with anybody. And so I started trying to put these bands together with my friends. I joined a ska band on guitar that we rehearsed in Forney, and we were called Hop, Skip, and Go Naked. And then, you know, I joined a bunch of other just random bands playing guitar, and like I started my own bands and was writing a lot. And in 2010, a buddy of mine moved back here to Texas from New Jersey, and we played phone tag for like a week because we wanted to jam. We hadn't seen each other in a few years, and the last time we saw each other, we jammed one day, and we really liked what was happening musically, you know. And so we finally got a hold of each other, and him and I and another guy got together and jammed, and we said, okay, we got 2 guitar players and a drummer, now we just need to find a bass player. And I was like, you know, I hadn't had like the best luck finding the right bass player for the projects that I was trying to create, these type of rock bands, you know. Like there were guys that were like really good but they were unpredictable. And then there were guys that were like solid humans there for it every moment, but like couldn't play, you know? And so I told them, I was like, I don't know, you know, I was like, well, I've been writing my own stuff and I've dabbled on the bass. Here's some bass lines I wrote for some songs of mine. And the two of them looked at me and were like, wow, you're a natural. Like, you have an ear for bass. You should just play bass here. And up until that point, I'd been playing at that point probably 5 or 6 years. Anytime somebody asked me to play bass like that, I always took it as, you're not a good enough guitar player. But in this moment, it was the opposite. It was, you clearly understand the bass and we need that right now. And I was like, okay, whatever it takes. And I switched to bass for that band. And then I started joining other bands playing bass, and I was still playing guitar a lot at the time too. And then somewhere along the way, it just kind of went full on with bass. And, you know, I've taught guitar in the background and I've written on guitar a lot. And I've actually played guitar in a band or two over the last 5 or 6 years. But yeah, somewhere there, it just clicked where it was like, I may as well just play bass.
That's interesting because you clearly stated how you knew it wasn't an insult, which it could have been taken that way. But even still, I feel like, and it speaks to your like in check ego, but most guitar players are not switching to bass. I mean, there's like historical stories of people doing it and it works, but it's rare. So that's cool. I mean, and it's funny because you seem like you seem like you were going to find the bass eventually, because it is really who you are. I mean, even like I was just in my mind trying to imagine you playing guitar, and I could see it, but it would be like, oh, that's not the same. Yeah.
If you look up, there's 2 music videos on YouTube from maybe 2021, Griffin Tucker and the Real Rock Revolution. Griffin had 2 different bands at one point where it was 2 different trios, and one of them was with me and another drummer, and the other one were, you know, Griffin's younger, so the other one was a band with like people his age. And then both bands ended up with the same drummer at one point, so we decided, hey, we should just put these 2 bands together. And he was like, hey, Patrick, like, what do you think about playing guitar? Like, and it wasn't that the other bass player was a better bass player. It was that the other bass player at the time didn't play guitar at all. And it was easy to just throw us all together if I just moved over. And I was like, yeah, totally, you know? And so played guitar in that project with Griffin and sang backups. And
was that weird for you?
it was awesome. I love guitar. And also, you know, SG, like the Gibson SG, has always been my favorite body style. And so I have a Telecaster that I got from a friend of mine, a guy named Kenny Fuller, who lives in Nashville. So I have a Telecaster I got from him when I was like 19, like, you know, 18 years ago. But SGs have always been my favorite. And so when I was moved over into guitar there, I was like, okay, I'm going to get an SG. And then I got 2 SGs, you know, and
you're a gearhead, by the way.
yeah, I love gear. I love gear. But it was awesome, you know. I really miss playing guitar. It's fun, and I feel like from that experience, most of the time, guitar is less pressure than bass.
I was gonna ask you, because it seems like with the bass, you're being relied on as the foundation. Yeah. And with a guitar, even if it's one guitar, that's not always true. So like you can kind of really just play around and come up with fun sounds. It's not like there's the same responsibility as on that instrument. Yeah,
guitars have room to get out of the way, and guitars have room to move around, where the bass, you got to be that foundation, like you said, you know. And even more so when you're in like a 4-piece where there's 2 guitars, it makes it even easier. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like the guitar could one of the guitars could totally miss some licks and no one would even know. But if the bass player missed a note or 2, everybody's like, whoa, bottom just dropped out. Yeah. You know, so it was really fun playing guitar. I definitely love that. And, you know, if the right project showed up again wanting me to play guitar, I would definitely do it in a heartbeat. Mm-hmm. I still have one of my 2 SGs. I use it a lot, writing.
So you're in a lot of bands. We still haven't answered the question of how many. But like, I mean, I'm sure at the beginning you were kind of just going with like whatever.
So yeah, I had that band that was like a passion thing for me, and believed in it a lot, and I wanted to see opportunities open, and I started getting calls to play with my friends that I'd already known for years, like, oh, you're playing bass now and you're great. can you fill in on bass on this gig this weekend? You know, it's like Michael Lee Clemmer called me like, hey, I got this New Year's gig. And then like my other buddy, Chet Stevens, called me, hey, you know, you want to play this? And so then I started realizing like, oh, you know, maybe I should just play with multiple people and see what kind of opportunities I could bring to each one of them, you know? And so I got offered to join a band that was named My Lucidity with a friend of mine, Jacob Guzman. And he had a connection with like Dallas Sound Lab, where he had some students there that were like really hard workers that needed to record albums to submit for schoolwork. And so I joined his band because I liked him. I liked the opportunities he was getting. And I also wanted that connection for the studio for my other band. And so then that sort of became the thing where it was like, I want to stay busy. I want to be making all kinds of music. And I want to see things grow and connections be made that can benefit everyone. You know, it's like, if I can get enough opportunities or eyes on me or connections that I could spread that amongst all these other people, you know, may as well just like try to see how far I can take this for myself. And then for anybody else who wants me along for the ride with what they're doing, I can try and connect these dots, you know? Mm-hmm. And so that was kind of the goal and what I did.
You do add value as a bass player, but it just makes me go, like, what kind of draw does that add? Or what kind of, I mean, it probably doesn't, like, people don't go, oh, Patrick Smith's playing bass, I'm going to go see this band now. But when they're already there, that's where your value comes in. That's my take on it. I mean, does that sound right? Or
it differs. You know, I have had quite a few people come up to me lately that they've come to see me play with somebody just because it was me.
Okay.
You know, like,
so you have that's a big deal, because as a bass player, especially, like, making a name for yourself among other musicians is the first level. But when fans are coming to see you play with different projects because you sound so different, that's the highest compliment, I think, is from a fan.
The other day I saw a guy wearing a Jim Suler shirt for our single Get Your Head Right that we put out a year or so ago. And I, after the show, went up to him and was like, hey, nice shirt, because he was seeing me play with a different band. And then he told me, he's like, you're my favorite bass player in town. I was like, oh, wow, that's really cool. Thanks.
Wow.
You know?
Yeah, I think a lot of people probably feel that way.
No.
Yeah, no, I mean, because when I first kind of caught wind of, like, what you do, it's like, well, there's a lot of guys in LA and Nashville probably that, you know, they play in a bunch of bands. But it's like, you don't just do that. Like, you're not like a hired gun, really, because every show I see you in, it feels like you're in that band. That's how I take it. Like, and I know you're not. And I still, like, if I close my eyes, whoa, careful.
My feet got locked up. Well, yeah, you know, sorry. Didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I mean, that's all I was saying, was just that it's like, you know, I've seen enough bands with guys that are just filling in, and I never feel like you're filling in, and you are, but I never feel like it.
Or if I am, because I'm, you know, there's other.
If you are, yeah.
Well, you know, it's funny. I've had this conversation with people a few times lately about how lately, the last 8 months, I've been so busy that I keep getting to things and feeling like, boy, I wish I had 4 more hours to practice that music. Like, I feel like I'm 65% to where I need to be. And I'm nervous, you know, like, not nervous, just like self-aware that there's a chance for some mess ups here. And I really hope the best can come of this. Like, part of me doubts, like, I'm like, oh man, I'm going to have a train wreck at some point in one of these songs. Cause
what's the worst that has happened?
Then I just nail it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
like, so I was going to say, like, does it actually?
No, it never goes wrong.
Yeah.
No matter how much I feel like it's going to, no matter how underprepared I feel, it doesn't. And I'm just fortunate that I was so obsessed with music and I put all of those hours into it over the years that, you know, it's like, if I were half as capable as I am right now, I would have tanked a lot of gigs in the last year, because I stay busy. People ask me to do things and I don't, you know, it's like all of a sudden my schedule just gets so full unexpectedly because things need more time from me. Mm-hmm. And so then I don't get to practice as much as I want to. And I think, you know, I'm scared going into a gig, like, oh boy. Like, even like when we did the Battle of Evermore, the Physical Graffiti show a few weeks ago, I thought I was at 65%. You know,
Well, those are songs you played a bunch of times, though, right?
yeah, but there were a handful of new ones that we hadn't either we'd never played or we've only played once or twice, and it's been a few years. So yeah, that show is a lot of fun because we really want people to have an experience like they're seeing Zeppelin, like musically seeing Zeppelin.
Yeah, and that's cool because I mean, people have their opinions on cover tribute bands, but for me, if it's a band that you cannot see live, then there's value every time, personally.
Yeah.
It's like I've never seen Led Zeppelin, and I never will. So
Yeah. And for me, it's... Yeah, if you couldn't see the tribute band, and if the tribute band is actually like, for me, I'm not interested in all the wigs. I'm not.
Sure.
I'm not interested in going. Oh, they look like they went to a Halloween store and bought the outfits to look like Zeppelin. You know.
Well, your singer's not even a man.
Yeah, exactly. I want to go and see a tribute band because they're gonna murder this music.
Yeah.
They're gonna make me have just as amazing musical experience as if I went and got to see that band 30 years ago when they were around, whoever it is,
Right.
It's like Badfish, the Sublime tribute. I watched them in concert probably 4 or 5 times, 15 years ago. And it was just mind blowing, like that dude sounds just like Bradley Nowell. And when they did the whole Sublime with Rome thing, when that got announced, and I heard Rome and I was like, this dude's voice doesn't match Sublime's music at all. Why didn't they just get the singer of Badfish to join Sublime at that time? So then it's like I saw Sublime with Rome, and it was cool getting to see that rhythm section live. But then a week later, I'd go see Badfish when they were in town and be like, okay, this is more true to the music.
Huh. Interesting.
And so it's like if I'm going to go see a tribute band, it's not going to be because they look like it. It's because they sound like it. They're going to blow my mind.
That makes me wonder, how many shows do you get to go just watch at this point? Is it just shows that you're like already there, or do you have time to go see shows?
Well,
I guess I've seen you at shows.
Yeah, quite a few times.
Now that I think about it.
So, it's pretty random. If there's a band that like is really important to me, I'll try to block the date out, and I will easily just say no to any sort of like little bar gig or something like that that's just for money, But then oftentimes, a band gets an actual show that I play in, and I just have to go do it, and I miss it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a gamble. Sometimes I'll buy tickets hoping I can keep them, or a lot of times I've friends that get me some free tickets to things. I've a dear friend of mine named Anne who works for one company, and she helps me get tickets sometimes. And I have other friends that, different venues, David and different
Sure.
people that like I can call them anytime and just show up and hang out with them and catch a show,
Yeah.
And so sometimes I have to wait until the last second when a show's already sold out.
Right.
And then it gets to be that week of, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I do still have that night off. I do want to go to that show. Then I'll reach out to my friends and say, hey, any chance you got any more comp tickets? And they'll say, yes, great, put you down, or no, sorry. And then I'll look on StubHub or something and buy a resale
Get there
ticket.
somewhere. Yeah. Yeah.
The fun thing about it is anytime I get a free ticket, I show up knowing I didn't pay anything to get here. I want to support the artist, especially if I like the band. So I have so many band shirts now, because it's like every show I'm like, okay, I'm buying a shirt from them,
Right. So I was at a show at Ferris Wheeler's, and I wanted to get up on this one block, and I ripped my jeans right at the seam.
No.
And I was like, why don't bands have band jeans? Because like I would have bought a pair and worn them all night. No, I'm just kidding. That's true, but I would have, but I don't expect.
There's one band that I've seen that had jeans.
Okay.
I made friends with these guys. With the Dirty Shirts, we played in Cleveland at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for this event called The Gathering. And it's like you play for radio promoters, and then they pick, we like these new singles from this band. We'll start playing it on their station wherever they're at, And so we got to see a bunch of other bands. It was like right after us, Lit played. And then later that night, we went to a hotel where there's this conference room where they had another stage, and the band Milky Chance was playing, and they were great live. It was cool. And there was a little hotel conference room, And then after them, this other band, Palais Royale, played, and I was just blown away. like the singer's stage presence was so cool, and ended up hanging out and chatting with them afterwards for a while and made friends with them. And I've gone and seen their show a couple times, and I saw that they had some pants, but I don't know that it would be your vibe, because it was like, you know, like maybe it wasn't black leather, but they're definitely very tight jeans with like a shoelace tying up the crotch kind of thing, you know, like that might not cover up your butt completely, kind of low-waisted pants that had like patches all over them and stuff.
Yeah, probably not. I was in a commercial when I was younger, and I wore the actual pants that Val Kilmer wore in the Doors movie, the black leather ones, like the literal same pants.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, it kind of was. And what was funny about that was everyone on that set, including the guys, were like, "Oh, you look really good in those pants." And I was like, but that was the last time I wore leather pants.
So wait, how long ago, like how far between the Doors shoot and that shoot?
Probably like 3 years.
3 years in between? Okay. I was just wondering how fresh Val Kilmer's sweat was in it.
You got to think that he lived in them, but I didn't notice. They must have cleaned
Do you know
them
if they were, I was going to say, were they dry cleaned or something?
Because, you know, the way it is like they have all these Hollywood wardrobe places, and so like they're checking clothes in and out, and you would think that would have been in a museum. Maybe it is now. I don't know, but... Okay, I don't have more stuff. We still got like some time.
Yeah. Did you want me to list the bands I play with?
Yeah. Why don't we go through your band list while we're thinking about it?
Okay, so I have the Battle of Evermore, you know, as we talked about, and then on top of that as well, we have an original project, Trees Marie, you know, and she's been writing songs, and we have 2 singles we put out. One that we recorded at Valve with Casey DiOrio called So Sweet, and then another one that we recorded with Jimmy Bauman at Nile City called Run to the Sturgeon Moon.
Jimmy's been on.
Yeah, and So Sweet is the Battle of Evermore fully. It's like Matt on drums, you know, Griffin on guitar. But then when we did Sturgeon Moon, the way that Trees and Griffin ended up writing the song, it was just easiest for just the 3 of us to go in, and Griffin did drums and guitar. And man, that song is like the most Zeppelin sounding thing I've ever recorded on. I mean, like, it's just riffing, you know, and Griffin's drumming is just like murdering. And it gets to this solo section, and Griffin started explaining to me these chord changes. And so I started adjusting the notes I was using around all the different chords he was doing. And then it gets to this part of the solo where, I mean, it's like, I was just lifting something from Achilles' Last Stand in there, you know, with the bass part I was playing. And then the end of the song, I'm like, oh, you know, I love that. There's like this hammer-on pull-off riff that John Paul Jones did on a live version of Celebration Day that I kind of like took inspiration from for the outro bass part on that song. And we've got 4 or 5 more songs that we recorded and added in. Tree's old guitar player, Joshua Vaughn, is also on guitar. So Griffin and Josh sharing guitar duties, and Griffin on drums and me on bass. We've got maybe 4 or 5 more songs that we're finishing up now to start releasing some more singles.
Cool.
And then, you know, Jim Suler and Monkey Beat, and we have a new single that'll be coming out soon. Jim and I went to Nashville to Tyler Bryant, to his home studio, and we recorded... he produced, and his drummer Caleb played drums with us. Jim and Tyler actually wrote this song together when Jim was out on tour with George Thorogood and had a day off in Nashville, and he hung out with Tyler. And so, yeah, that song will be announced soon and released soon. And then...
I'm just going to say, I want to hear the stories but if you do a story for every band, we will need another podcast, just so you know.
Oh yeah, that would take we can do one podcast just on this one band's stories, and then one on
I think we just do a podcast where we just read your band list. That's it. There's nothing else in it.
So then I play with Kalindo. Kalindo is Janelle Monáe's longtime guitar player, and we just flew to LA for 2 days and knocked out like 11 songs, drums and bass. Joshua Sloan on drums. He's one of the main drummers I play with, one of my best friends. And so we went out there, knocked out a bunch of songs for a record. Kalindo's out there right now finishing that up and also working on new music with Janelle. And so there's that. And then let's see here. I play with Sergeant Splendor. That is a guitar player, singer. Eric McFadden and Kate Vargas. You know them. Yes, you know. And so we've got some shows in April. We're playing at like Ruins on the 10th and Magnolia Motor Lounge on the 11th. And then we've got like an Austin and San Antonio date. Cool. And also they are working on 2 new records. One of them was pretty much done. The other one, I'm remotely recording bass on like 3 or 4 songs. I've sent them 2, and I've got maybe it's 5 songs I'm doing bass on. I forget. But so they're going to put out a record, and that one has Norwood Fisher on it from, formerly of Fishbone. And then they'll put out another record where Eric did half the bass parts and I did half the bass parts.
I didn't know he was involved. That's cool.
Oh, Norwood?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he played bass on both of their previous records.
Okay.
And when they're in California, either him or this other girl will play with them in California. So they kind of have rhythm sections all over the U.S.
Yeah, it's cheaper that way probably for traveling and stuff.
It's just right now with where they're at, trying to find the best management they can find, kind of thing, like that believes in them and is doing the right things. Until they get their ducks in a row, this just works and makes the most sense. But I think that when they find the right team on the business end, they'll probably get themselves into a place where they're going to pick a rhythm section, and maybe it'll be me. I don't know.
Right.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, but I mean, so is there a gig that you would take that would be so big that it would knock a bunch of these off for you?
Well, I mean, the goal, of course, is financial security, and the goal is obviously good times, and good music, and bigger stages is amazing and everything, So, yeah, I mean, I've always kind of been of the mindset that if anything were to take off, I would have to take the opportunity. But I don't think that there's so many different possibilities of how that could end up. It could end up where there's a band that blows up that I'm in, that we hit the road nonstop for 2 years. You know what I mean? That could happen. I feel like with the way things go, even if somebody blew up, I'm still going to be like 2 to 4 weeks on and then 2 to 4 weeks off or something. So I don't see myself ending up in any sort of position where I have to quit everything. It is possible though, but more than likely, just with what I've seen, I think it would be more than likely that I would just have to have a bunch of, solid fill-in players to keep my other projects rolling when I wasn't available. Or there would be some bands that would just have to move on, of course. But
do you have that? Do you have like a stable of bass player friends that you can?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So Uriah Stakes, the first guy I call.
No, Uriah, yeah.
Uriah's great. And then, I've got a buddy in Fort Worth named Jackson Anderson who's really good that I'll call him. And I'm sorry, everybody. There's more of you that I call, and I call you. So sorry that I'm blanking on everyone's names right now.
You're pretty good on names, actually, compared to a lot of guests. So I'm impressed with your memory, to be honest.
Thank you.
We're getting to the end. We have a few more questions. One is, I'm sure it's changed dramatically, but at this point, like, how do you choose to be in a new project? Like, what's your criteria?
Well, first off, I guess if I'm going to commit to something, I want there to be a record being made or a record that has been made. I want to see that they're trying to do something. That's been something that I've stuck with since 2014 even, where it's like, I'm not trying to full-time put all my dates aside for some sort of cover band or somebody who's just playing the same songs that they recorded 10 years ago and that's that. It's like I want to be stepping up constantly. And whether I'm involved in the creative process or not, there needs to be something that we're pushing,
How much of it does it play in for you to have creative say versus you're just going to play?
Depends on how much I like the music. If I really love the music, I'm totally happy with showing up to play the music, and that's my role. If I don't love the music, if you want me to commit my life to this, you're not going and hiring some other session musicians when you got a session musician in your band. I had a country act that I filled in for a few years ago, and they offered me the full-time gig, and I knew that it was the type of deal where a dude went to Nashville and used the same guys that are on every country record for the last 35 years. And I knew that it would take me away from other opportunities that I was really excited about. So I told him, "Ma, join your band if you let me record on your next record." So they got another bass player.
That's funny. Did you know that?
I knew that was what was going to happen. Yeah. I wasn't going to put myself in a really great paying situation that wasn't musically like my favorite thing, right. Like if I'm not actually involved in the music. And there are other bands that I play with, whether it's blues or country or whatever, that I'm not involved in the recording process. And I'm okay with that because they're not like taking me away from everything else where I am getting to be creative. Now, if one of those bands, another country or blues or rock or anything like that, were to get busy enough to take me away from my creative outlets, then at that point I would need to have the conversation with them like, okay, I will commit and I will be more available for you than anybody else, but I need to be creating with you as well. And it's just who I am. It's what I do. You know, it's like I said, I want to inspire. I have so much capability that I'm aware of, and I want to be using it. I want to be put to use, you know. I've been in so many situations where somebody was the MD who didn't understand basic theory, you know, like couldn't explain to a drummer a part. Next thing you know, the music director's over here like, and I'm like, hey, this chord doesn't match the melody. I'm changing chords. Hey, the kick pattern isn't lining up with what the guitar and vocals are doing. So we have to rewrite that, you know. So it's the next thing you know, I'm MDing in these bands, but this other guy's the MD and he's getting paid to be the MD. Right. You know, so it's like
musical director for those that don't know.
Oh, yes. So that's the thing too, is like there were so many years there where I didn't know my value, and I would do things, and I, you know, with everything that I was doing, all the responsibilities, I should have been paid double, you know.
God, I feel that way about a lot of my projects.
You know? And so now now with having done so much like that, and with all the things that I've done now, I'm in a place where I get enough calls that I can set my rates. I understand how the business works better, where I can talk up front about, do you want me here to just play bass in this studio session, or are you going to look to me for arrangement and production and, you know, songwriting things? Because if you are, I'm happy to do those things, but then there's credits and there's different pay that needs to be talked about. If you want me to just come in here and play bass, don't ask me if I like these chord changes. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like if at the end of the day, I say, hey, well, I'm owed an arrangement credit for that. And you're going to say, well, no, I mean, you didn't do anything. Well, why'd you ask me if I thought this part was right? And then I rewrote it for you. And now you don't want to give me a credit. So now I'm learning more and more about that sort of stuff, where before I didn't know my value. So I would just do these things and be afraid to ask for what I was owed.
I don't think a lot of people would know, like the first few times in a studio, that should give you credit on the recording.
I didn't realize for like 12 years.
Yeah.
You know, it's not been until the last few years where I started getting into producing. I'm producing a record for a friend of mine, a really great artist named Campbell Crates, and I'm producing a record for another friend of mine named Paul Yanez. His project's called Makusa, and getting into producing with those, where, you know, I'm calling so many shots, I'm like, oh, okay, so I've always been owed arrangement credits for almost every recording I've ever been on. You know, like, like I could sit here and go through the Spotify playlist of all the music I've ever recorded on, and I could just break apart like, oh, I came up with this thing, I came up with that thing, changed that chord, dropped a half bar here, you know, trim the fat. I wrote this drum part that the drummer's playing to match with everyone. You know, it's like all these things that I did, not knowing, like, I'm giving this away. Yeah. You know, and now I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And getting more and more into producing and stuff like that. And it's like, I'm down to come just play bass if that's what you want. You know what I mean? But you know what I can bring here. And if you start asking for those things, then that's another conversation that I realize now I have to have with someone up front. Not after the fact, because then nobody remembers.
Yeah, it's funny because like everybody should be doing that, but it's like we
don't know.
But you're afraid
you'll lose the opportunity,
you lose the gig, and so you're finally at this place. Maybe you've been there for a little while, where you're good enough that it's like they could find somebody else, but they're going to have a hard time finding all of that you're bringing.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing too. Is like I've had the conversation several times recently where people have approached me. I'm like, look, I'm not trying to sell you on me. I'm just telling you where I'm at and what I need. And, you know, it's like, whatever you want to do, I'm here for it. But this is what I bring to the table, and this is what I cost, and these are your options. And, you know, no offense taken if you decide to go elsewhere, you know, but yeah, it's like I have my years of experience doing the things that I've done. You know, I've been in studios, you know, all over the U.S. and in Europe. I went, you know, Holy Roller Baby's first record, we recorded at a studio owned by Radiohead and their management. Wow. Borrowed equipment from them. And that was in 2017. We did that one. And yeah, so it's like, I know my worth and I know what I'm capable of. And now I just have to communicate that. It's really not that hard.
Yeah. No, I mean, now that you're clear, it's pretty easy.
Yeah, right.
We're running to the end here. I have like 2 quick questions if you can answer quick. One, is there a genre where you flat out are like, no, I'm not doing that?
No, not really. It's more about like how fun the musicians are.
Okay.
Because if I were to say there were a genre, flat out no. I play it a lot, so so you have
a least favorite genre, but it doesn't stop you.
It doesn't stop me. And the fun thing is playing it a lot with these amazing, talented musicians that are wonderful humans. I've grown to appreciate that music. There are some songs that I couldn't have enjoyed that I can enjoy now. There are other songs that bring me some happiness, but I don't like the performance that's recorded. I like better the performance that I did with the band that I played with, So, I mean, yeah, like, yeah.
I'm not going to ask you what it is. I want people to go see you in 3 bands, 4 bands, and then come back and report to us on what they think it is.
Well, I don't think they'll be able to guess it because, what you were saying about how you see me and you never feel like I'm a fill-in, and it's like, I like to have fun. I like everybody around me to have fun. So I'm up there bringing whatever energy and stage presence I feel like is necessary for the vibe on the stage. It's like, I don't care if we're playing, at church on Sunday morning or if we're playing some really calm blues music or country. It's like, if everybody on the stage is like giving me this electric energy, I'll be headbanging. You know what I mean? Like, I'll just be throwing myself around, just laughing and having a good time. And if the energy on the stage is calm, then I can be up there just, grooving, and like
You've never
feeling
stood
it.
out like a sore thumb. I'll say that much too.
And that's also because there are times where I'll look at everybody else on the stage and be like, I don't want to out headbang anybody up here, so I'm going to not headbang now.
Yeah.
Like, I'll look at how someone else is moving and be like, I don't want to move more than that guy. So I'm going to gauge my movement amounts off of what that person does.
That's good. Like, I learned because I did a lot of theater and like improv training, and like one thing they say is like an improv, because you're coming out and you don't know what you're going to say, match the energy of what's on stage. That's your best place to start. If you come in screaming over a soft or coming in soft over screaming, it could be funny if you pull it off, but 99% of the time it's just not going to read.
Yeah.
And so that's you're doing it. Last question. Well, we never got a number.
Oh, okay.
I mean, can you just count or?
So yeah, I said, okay, so let's go.
If you read the names.
Valve Evermore, Trees Marie, Sergeant Splendor, Calindo, Jake Quillen, Wes Jeans, working on a new record with Jake, working on a new record with Wes also. Sorry.
Cool. So you
Wes
both those
Jeans.
guys.
Yeah. Campbell Crates, Jim Suler, Mountain Natives, Supernova Remnant. I play with Derek Day a bit out in LA. Reverend Sean Amos.
I've heard of Lost Count.
Yeah, I think I'm at 12 maybe. Karina Grove, Amanda Kate Ferris, Mackenzie Hobner, working on a record with her. Mike Manning is a good buddy of mine, used to be Demi Lovato's guitar player. He's producing her record and playing on it. Awesome. Erica Lynn Lewis, Brent Alexander, Cody Jasper, Eye Upon High is another project. Makusa. There are more. What was that? Like 18?
I don't know. I'd have to like.
There are more too. Wait a second.
I mean, I remember bands you used to play in, BJ Stricker.
Yeah. I don't know what happened
Ryan
with that
Bird.
record. Oh yeah, Ryan. I don't play with Ryan too often. He mostly, I think, uses Uriah.
Did you play with Remy at one point? Remy Riley?
No, she played in the Dirty Shirts.
Oh, she was really?
Yeah, she was the female singer for a while there.
I did not know that.
Yeah, and then we had this tour where we went up to New York and she couldn't go. And that was when we found a different singer to do that tour, Dee Dee, and she ended up joining on and yeah, so Remy was in the band for a bit. She's on a couple of the singles.
Okay.
Yeah. Pulling a blank here on which ones, though. I can see the album art with the two of them. Yeah, anyway, she's on a couple of the singles.
Okay, cool. I'm going to end it with one last question.
Uh-huh.
And we're going to just say you're in 25 bands.
I love it. You
at
know,
any given moment.
It's just, yep. But don't be afraid to call me, y'all. I know that I'm in like 18,000 bands, but call me, okay?
Well, because you're still doing it. Like you maybe will one day find the dream gig.
I have this Friday off if anyone needs me.
Well, we don't know when we're airing this. So
I know. I was thinking that.
You won't have the Friday off. That's like this Friday in the past you have off.
Okay, so let's just look ahead here at my count. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, last question. What's like the biggest gig for you that you've done? Like the one single show? Like where or who or why? Or like what would define that?
Gosh. That's really hard to say.
That wasn't in your notes.
No, not at all. And I'm like, I mean, like, because there's so many that come to mind that it's debatable what it really would be. You know, I played Rock Palace or Rock Plast last March with Cody. So that's a concert that's been going on in Germany since, I don't know, it's like, what, 35 years or something, where it's all live, it's all streamed like on television and then now on the internet too. So it's like on German TV. And so we did that last year. It was like our first show on our Europe tour. And that was like mind blowing. You know, it's like I've watched Stevie Ray Vaughan's Rock Palace performance, and I've watched the Chili Peppers, you know, and like Joe Bonamassa and like all these other, Clutch did one a couple years ago, you know, I'm wearing the shirt right here. You know, so it's like one of those things where it's like I get to go stand on that stage and I'll be on national German television, and like that's wild. And then, you know, it's like in 2016 I filled in on bass for Eric Gales at the Dallas Guitar Festival on 2 or 3 shows, and that was just like a mind-blowing experience. He is just a total monster guitar player, like unreal. And then, you know, like I've played a bunch of shows at the Factory and at Nokia or Verizon, Texas Trust Theater, whatever it's called now.
Is there a venue that you're like, I'd like to play there?
Oh yeah, I mean, I'd love to play Red Rocks or Madison Square Garden.
Yeah,
you
those
know,
are the first two that come to mind.
Yeah,
I want to shoot at both of those.
Yeah, and it's funny too because there's several bands that I had played in at one point or another that, you know, just whatever reasons I'd moved on from those projects years ago, and they've gone on to play Red Rocks and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh shucks, I should have stayed there.
Yeah, well, I mean,
you know,
I mean, what are you going to do? You can't see the future. And I mean, I still think those are very attainable goals.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah,
you know, I feel like right now with these records that I've got that I've been doing, you know, the Kalindo record, the record with Cody, all these different records, they're all gearing things up for that type of potential for sure.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
going and working in this studio in LA with Kalindo, and going to Muse's studio and recording with Cody and with other people, different things that I'm working on right now, and different people that are hearing the music. You know, I think everything sets me up for something to happen sooner or later. But no, I mean, I've played a whole bunch of other random ones that aren't even like, I'm sure like I'll be driving after this and I'll go, oh man, that was the biggest show I've ever played. Why did I not think of that? I remember in 2017 with Jim Suhler, we played in Belgium, this festival, and maybe there was like 5,000 people there. And right before the show, Jim asked me to learn one of his songs that I hadn't played with him yet. I'd been playing with him for about a year at that point, year and a half. So I went and learned this song, and then we played the show, and then we did our encore, and we came out and we played the song that he had me learn, and the sun had just set, and it's this like, you know, old looking Belgian town where all the buildings are built in different eras. You know, it's like each building's 100 years older or newer than the one beside it, and they're all connected. And there's this 1,000-year-old church looking down at us, and we're playing this song, and we bust into it, and the whole crowd, half of them didn't even speak English, you know, they all just burst into singing this song, like just screaming it at us, you know. And I'm up there just like, whoa. Like, that's like one of my favorite musical memories. Like one of my favorite performances definitely was that. Like,
that's good. Whatever you remember on the drive home, that was perfect.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Hey, Patrick, thank you so much. I'm glad we finally sat down.
Me too. Thank you.
We'll put links to whatever it is you want people to hear and see. And yeah, thanks for doing it.
Thank you, Andrew.
I'd like to thank my guest, Patrick Smith. If you go to a show in Dallas, you're probably going to see him, but keep an eye out, and there's links in the show notes. Opening theme song, Salim Nirala, Unstoppable, and the closing theme song, Electric Ants, The Place to Be. Thank you to the Mullen & Mullen Music Project for supporting this podcast. We'd also like to thank the Deep Ellum Community Center for letting us record there. You can catch the Dallas Famous podcast every Sunday at 1 o'clock on Deep Ellum Radio, and then Wednesday on all the podcast platforms. Please like, subscribe, enjoy, share, all the good things. We'll see you next time.